The list of success stories that continued on after Golden Voice could fill another documentary if the entire story was told.
John Friga, a young Chicago-based musician, better known today to most as Jonathan Cain of the group Journey, was quite young when he first came to Golden Voice, maybe 17 years of age. He was accompanied by his brother Tommy, who may have been as young as 15 at the time. The talent was there, and all that John needed to do was to develop what came naturally. When the tapes were finished, I was confident enough in what I heard that I sent them on to my writer and producer friend Bob Millsap in Nashville, and he passed them on to Buddy Killen of Tree Publishing Company.
It was the first time I was ever in the studio, and I emerged as a winner as far as getting some resolve from the recording sessions. Of course, I was signed by Buddy Killen and Tree Publishing, and it was a real exciting time for me, and it was really great to have gone in there with just sort of modest, humble intentions, and coming out with something that did further my career. And I think it was partly due to the fact that we were organized and we knew what we wanted to do.
Buddy Killen released John's Golden Voice recordings on the Dial label. John went by the name Johnny Lee at the time. The two songs on 145 were titled The Road That Leads to Nowhere and Just What the Doctor Ordered. The other song titles were God Made Women to Love and Look at Yourself.
That was kind of an interesting experience for Jerry, I guess, and for us, that here was our first time in the studio, and we really had our stuff together, and he was impressed, and of course gave us all of his energy, and it really turned out just to be a super project for all of us, and I'll never ever forget it.
Take me and you'll see, I'll fill your town and lonely heart with just the right dose of me.
Chuck Peron, along with his sister Mary, was a huge part of Golden Voice. In addition to his part beginning with the Shags, Chuck established his own label, Webster's Last Word. He produced 2 45s and 3 albums at Golden Voice.
Rained all day last night, and he couldn't get to sleep if he tried, 'cause his eyes just wouldn't cooperate.
Chuck eventually moved to San Diego, California, and established Dizzy's Lounge. Before he left Pekin, along with the Shags and cutting his own album, Chuck helped establish other successful people in the music industry. One of those huge successes was a man named Andy Wallace.
Andy loved the atmosphere so much that he literally moved into Golden Voice, living there for a period of time. He wanted to learn the techniques of the recording industry, and that was the beginning of his own successful musical career.
When Chuck Peron, a Golden Voice alumni, approached us about making an album at Golden Voice, there was no question about our decision. We were totally naive about the process, but this was a dream come true. After some rudimentary rehearsals of the material we had chosen to do, off we went to become 60s rock stars. The album that I recorded with First Friday in 1969 was the first time I had ever worked in a recording studio. And I said, this is something I really think I'm interested in doing. When we did the First Friday album, I was in my 5th year of studying chemical engineering, and you should know that I hold Jerry personally responsible for terminating my studies as well as my Chem-E career. What choice did I have? Here I was actually in the room with a real live multi-track recorder that I was recording an album on.
Took me side today, told me all the things I could do and all the things I could say. Hear everything the way she tells it, everything her own way.
As a result of this connection, the album First Friday on the Webster's Last Word label recorded at Golden Voice, is sought after by collectors willing to pay a high price today.
Not long after that, Jerry invited me to be an assistant at Golden Voice and learn all about audio engineering. Without a place for me to live, he also agreed that he would make a makeshift bedroom in the huge echo chamber down in the back corner of Golden Voice. I drove out from New Jersey in an old MGTD and in Indiana broke my rear axle and had to stash the car in the back of a rental truck and arrived down in Illinois with the car in the back of the truck. Not long after arriving in town, I stopped in at the nearby bar and wound up jamming with a band playing on stage to the amusement of some members of the local motorcycle gang, the Grim Reapers as I recall, who befriended me and bought me drinks. One of the members had an auto repair shop down the street. I arranged for him to repair the MG, and they arranged for me to have the worst hangover I've ever had. I made it back to the echo chamber and even onto the flimsy futon that served as my bed, but when my alarm clock went off several hours later, all hell broke loose. The noise was deafening and reverberating mercilessly. In the total darkness, I scrambled for the clock and in the process upset the unbalanced futon, falling to the floor and knocking over the night table. The lamp and the clock fell to the floor. The lamp broke, assuring continued blackness. I've remained shy of reverb ever since. I clearly recall on one instance helping Jerry to set up for a straight-ahead country music session, listening to the pedal steel player warming up, ripping off some fantastic jazz-oriented, distinctly non-country licks, and realizing that you can't judge a book by its cover. I learned to keep an open mind, which has been of infinite value in my work as a producer and a mixer. I send my very best regards and well wishes to both Marianne and Jerry, and I thank you for the opportunity to go back and revisit those early years. By the way, that I really don't regret leaving chemical engineering behind.
Andy Wallace became an in-demand engineer and producer in New York. In 1999, Andy shared a Grammy Award for Best Engineered Album, Non-Classical, for the work on Sheryl Crow's album, The Globe Sessions. A few of the easily recognized artists he worked with are Prince, Bruce Springsteen, Nirvana, Alice Cooper, Paul McCartney, Guns N' Roses, and according to Wikipedia, as of October 2005, over 80 million album units had been sold worldwide that contained a credit to Andy Wallace.